From the moment that email arrived, cold, emotionless, sharp like a blade pressed against my throat, I knew my life had split into two versions. The man I was before reading it, and the man I became after, because betrayal doesn't just hurt. It transforms you, it rewires your brain. It burns away illusions so violently that you can never go back to who you were. And I felt that transformation slowly consuming me that night, sitting outside the dusty outpost with my boots still covered in sand from patrol, my body exhausted, my eyes stinging from sweat and smoke, yet my mind suddenly wide awake. Electrified with a type of pain I never knew existed, and the message wasn't long or emotional or apologetic. No, it was cold, short, typed like a business memo, where she said she wanted a divorce because she had finally found someone who treats her the way she deserves, and she hoped I'd understand, attaching the documents like she was sending a recipe or office file. And for a few minutes I just stared at the glowing screen, the generator buzzing in the background. My team laughing somewhere behind me, completely unaware that my future had just been incinerated in seconds, and I didn't break down or scream or panic, not because it didn't hurt, but because the shock was too heavy, like someone had poured ice water into my veins and frozen me in place. And the more I stared at that message, the more memories flashed across my mind. The nights we stayed up planning our future, the promises she made before deployment, the tears in her eyes at the airport when she said she'd wait no matter how long it took, the video calls where she smiled but her eyes no longer looked the same, the subtle distance I ignored because I didn't want to believe she was slipping away, and suddenly everything made sense. Every excuse, every avoided question, every rush call, every sudden my phone is dying, every time she said she was tired. Because she wasn't tired, she was distracted, she was invested somewhere else, and deployment forces you to trust blindly because you have no choice, you have no presence, no control, no ability to walk into your own home and check what's happening behind your back. And as I sat there under the desert sky, I realized I had been replaced long before that email arrived. Deployment didn't break our marriage, her choices did. And what hurt the most wasn't the betrayal itself, but the way she delivered it. A message without voice, without emotion, without acknowledgement of the years I gave her, the sacrifices I made, the life I risked so she could live safely, comfortably, without fear. But even in that storm of heartbreak, the soldier in me remained calm because I knew losing control meant losing everything, so I typed a single word, understood, and closed the tablet, letting the darkness swallow the last piece of the life I once had. But something else happened that night, something subtle but powerful, a shift inside me, a hardening, a clarity, because betrayal is like fire. It burns you, but it also melts away weakness, exposing a stronger version of you underneath. And for the remaining months of deployment, I didn't complain, didn't react, didn't let anyone see the crater that email left in me. I just worked, trained, fought, slept, repeated, letting the routine forge me into someone who didn't break easily, someone who didn't need emotional crutches, someone who could stand alone even in complete darkness. When deployment finally ended and the plane wheels touched home soil, the first breath I took felt both familiar and foreign, like returning to a country that no longer fully belonged to me, because the life waiting for me wasn't the life I left behind. And instead of going home, I went straight to my brother's house, because deep down I already knew what I would find if I walked through my own front door, and I wasn't ready, not yet, not until I regained enough strength to face the truth without shattering. After sleeping for almost a full day, I woke up, cleaned myself up, and finally turned on the old cloud backup account that she forgot existed, and what I found inside didn't just confirm my suspicions, it demolished any remaining piece of hope I had in her. There were messages, hundreds of them, between her and another man, messages dating back months, messages full of confessions, flirtations, plans, intimate pictures, all exchanged while I was living inside a war zone, thinking she was praying for me, waiting for me, loving me. I scrolled in silence as my jaw clenched tighter with every line I read, messages where she called him the love she never knew she needed, messages where she mocked my absence, messages where she justified her betrayal by saying he's never home, what am I supposed to do? As if fidelity was a suggestion, not a vow. But the worst part came when I checked the home security system. Cameras she believed were turned off but had quietly updated to cloud sync. And I saw him in my house, walking around confidently, opening my fridge, wearing my clothes, sleeping in my bed, sitting on my couch, touching everything that belonged to me, everything I worked for, everything I sacrificed for, and I felt something break inside, not emotionally but spiritually. The kind of break that doesn't cause tears but creates a darkness so cold it feels like steel wrapping around your heart. But instead of raging, I got strategic. I collected everything: screenshots, videos, bank withdrawals, call logs, timestamps, every piece of proof her arrogance left behind, and when I contacted a lawyer, he looked at the evidence and said, she just destroyed her own life. We filed everything quietly, efficiently, legally, and the court summoned her before she even realized I was back in the country. That's when she panicked. She tried calling, texting, begging, lying, rewriting history, playing victim, saying she was confused, saying she needed time, saying it was a mistake, but I didn't respond, not because I hated her but because she didn't deserve access to the person she discarded. The day she showed up crying at my brother's house, pounding on the door like her world was ending, I watched from inside as she broke down, screaming my name, apologizing, collapsing onto the steps. But I didn't open the door because I had learned something important. Closure isn't given by the person who hurt you. Closure is created when you refuse to let them hurt you again. And the day of court arrived like a storm she wasn't prepared for. She walked in looking shattered, shaking, desperate, while I walked in calm, composed, collected, wearing my uniform, standing tall not out of pride, but because the truth was finally on display with no place to hide. And as the judge reviewed everything, the infidelity, the theft, the criminal boyfriend, the financial losses, her face slowly collapsed into horror because she finally understood that betrayal doesn't just end marriages, it destroys futures, and the court awarded me everything. The house, the assets, compensation, protection of benefits, and legal restrictions that prevented them from coming near me, and when the gavel fell, ending the marriage she threw away carelessly, she reached for me one last time, tears streaming down her face, begging, pleading, shaking, whispering, please, I made a mistake. But I stepped back, looked at her with the calmness she never expected, and said, you ended us in an email. This is just the result, before walking out of the courtroom and leaving her standing there like a broken memory of the woman I once loved. But karma wasn't finished. Within weeks, her boyfriend was arrested again, she lost her job, her friends abandoned her, her savings disappeared, and she ended up back at her mother's house, living with the consequences she created, while I rebuilt my life piece by piece, repainting the walls of the home she tainted, replacing the furniture, fixing the damage, reclaiming my space, my peace, my strength. And every morning I wake up knowing one truth, she didn't just lose me. She lost the version of her life she was never worthy of, and I didn't seek revenge. I simply stepped aside and let the universe handle her, because some people set themselves on fire and call it destiny, when really it's just the price of betraying the wrong heart.